like she planned to have the kid, yeah.
So when the man is introduced to the female family,
Yeah.
instead of the other way around, it's not demasculating at all. It's just
Exactly.
tradition. It's what is expected.
We did a, whoops, how do I stop this? Dave? Yeah, okay, there we go.
I'm an anthropologist born in China, but now I live in the US. I was part of the research team that came to Ishanghai in 2005.
Okay, so that was a really cool project. We had
It's fascinating.
Ben was the main, as Greg's little brother, was the main editor. He did some of the filming, went to the village several times, was the main editor here, learned to use Final Cut Pro, which is a professional editing software. And then he went back and showed the film to Dahua and made sure that she was okay with it before we publicized it. She liked it. And so we said it. It's been used at Harvard. It's been used in a couple of other places. And we haven't sold it. We've just been giving it away. It didn't really cost us anything to make it. I think maybe we should try to sell it, but you know that's it. And then Wang Shuo and Hu Wenting and I forgot to put Yao Shishi were because it took a lot of work. We had about, I think we had about 40, 50 hours of tapes that we got 32 minutes out of. And so we had to go through and catalog it and find what was where, and we had to do all the translations, and then we had to figure out the sequence and all the cuts and everything. You know, the professional films have a lot more cuts. We had a lot longer shots than I showed this in my class, and a couple days later I showed a professionally made film, and the difference was they didn't have any shot that was longer than half a minute, or even very few that were longer than 15 seconds. And we had some sort of 2 and 3 minute shots, you know, during those interviews and so forth. But, you know, in terms of the quality, I thought, you know, we did a pretty good job. The other thing is we didn't have background music during the interviews, and a lot of movies have background music all the time. Did you miss that?
No, it seemed more like a documentary, and when I think
Well, I mean, a lot of documentaries have background music all the time.
but I don't know. It didn't seem that it messed up the flow to me, at least with the interviews or whatever. The doc can compare this to documentary, you know.
Yeah.
But the ones that I've seen, they're usually don't have music during the interviews, so it seemed like it seemed to fit it pretty well, at least for me.
It just seems more genuine without constant music all the time.
And the other thing is that there's real music.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, during the Reading scenes, there's always somebody going, you know, and so you kind of get that music during those, and so that was the whole plan, was to alternate back and forth between the interviews and the wedding, the interviews and the wedding.
I think it flowed really well.
Yeah.
With the talking, for the guy who was not really thinking about getting married and then going back to the marriage, it was really nice.
So anyway, it was a really, really fun project to do, and we actually, we thinking about making some others, because we have a lot of footage from this place, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was really a lot of work. I mean, Ben sat there with in front of one of these fast computers with the editing software, you know, by the hour, over and over and over again. And he never got done. He went back to China, and we hired somebody else to work on it. So anyway, that was one. The other project in Yishan was this museum. Mei Chen Shi, who was a student who was here from Sichuan, and she went around to all the houses she could find. There's more, but she had about a week or 10 days, and cataloged all the old objects that they had and all the old documents that they had. And we got about 150 documents and about 150 furniture and things like this, like this old tobacco pipe that isn't made anymore, and ritual goods and things of that sort. And they were going to start a museum in this village, and it never happened. But we have a really neat, she had an amazing list, and we have thousands of photos of all these different objects. We took them all from different angles, and we have photocopies of all the documents. And in fact, Hanhua, who was the interviewer in that movie, and I are going to write a paper for a conference in China in June about the Oxford local marriage, the marriage where the husband marries them, because some parts of China you can't do that. In parts of China, if you don't have a son, you just, you become a hungry ghost. Nobody to worship you as an ancestor. But in other parts of China, if you don't have a son, a daughter can bring in a husband.
But what does it mean when she went to pick him up and then he marries into her family?
Right.
Is he less than her?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the balance of power shifts.
That's what I
It
thought.
doesn't shift all the way, though, because he is, after all, male. I mean,
Oh, okay.
right? But
But it does shift somewhat.
it does shift somewhat, oh, absolutely. And the other thing is Dahua is extremely intelligent and very outgoing, and, she's not the kind of person that would let anybody boss her,
Right.
in any kind of a situation. So that's, and the guy, I don't know him, I don't think I met him, I wasn't there during the wedding, but he seems like kind of an easygoing, kind of a guy. And she's really nice, she's a lot of fun to talk to, she's really smart. But anyway, so Chengshi made a huge database. Okay, so the third field site I want to talk about is in the city of Chengdu itself, because a lot of people have been doing their projects right there in the university. And there's some pictures of what the city looks like. Pandas are in a zoo, they don't throw around water. And McKinley Smith, I think you knew McKinley. McKinley was, she is interested in fashion and style and things like that. And she was an anthro honors student, and she did, well, you can see what she did. And the reason this is pink is because the PowerPoint that she showed, she had it pink, and I thought I should preserve McKinley's original color in both senses of color. Her, but she was interested in the emergence of eating disorders, so she went around and interviewed, did intensive interviews, and did dietary recall, the same kind of thing that Ross did in the village with these girls. And she also joined the cheerleading squad there. Yeah.
Who are the volcanoes? Is that
That's the cheerleading squad. That's the name of it. I think they rent themselves out to what other team, whatever team that's cheering. I don't know if she worked she cheered for the team that Ben was on. Greg's brother Ben he's also a really good soccer player. He played on a semi-pro team while he was there in Chengdu. I guess he's playing again, last I talked to him.
yeah, when he's on a new team, it's kind of like the competitive foreigner team, I guess, for the area.
Yeah. He unfortunately broke his leg. He was slated to be on the UW varsity the next year, and then he broke his leg really bad. But these girls reported really, starving themselves. And the BMI is a little bit, body mass index, right? It's a little bit above the acceptable bottom. They say 18 is the minimum without being serious, but anything under 18 is malnourished. So they actually, the interesting thing that McKinley and I talked about is that they were reporting eating less than they were actually eating. If they were actually eating what they were reporting, they would have been starving. And so they were trying to show each other and show her how good girls they were, in sticking to their diet. And actually they were cheating a little bit. They were still really skinny, but they weren't as skinny as they would have been if the reports had been accurate. I thought that was totally fascinating finding. But they, with